The Buffalo Bills going 13-4 this past season, winning the AFC East for their 5th straight year. They beat the Broncos in the wild card round, beat the Ravens in the divisional round. They lost in the AFC title game to, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs. It was their 6th straight playoff appearance, and Dalton, if that Chiefs loss in the playoffs sounds familiar, it's the 4th time in the last 5 years the Bills have had their season ended by Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So it feels like the same old for Buffalo, but still a great year for them overall. What went right for the Bills this year?
So this was Josh Allen and Joe Brady proving they could do it without Stephon Diggs. And every week it felt like there was something different in the game plan, whether they were running the football heavy, even with extra offensive linemen out there. They were 3rd in the league in rushing grade this year. James Cook, I think right now he's tied for the league lead in rushing touchdowns. Josh Allen, obviously with his legs, can do just marvelous things. Allen, 5th straight year with at least a 90 PFF grade. No one's ever done it. He was tied at 4 with Tom Brady, 5th straight year with a 90 PFF grade. First quarterback to ever do that. Allen, he's one of the elite players, one of the best players in any position in football. And when you have him alone, what they proved is you can get this far, which is incredible. You can be one of the last 4 teams standing just because you have number 17 at quarterback and Joe Brady calling plays, and he's going to be back for another year. Who knows if he'll be, a head coach next offseason. I think he would be a very hot candidate, but the way that those two orchestrated this offense between the play calling and Allen, again, even without a Stephon Diggs, without a real number 1 receiver, best turnover-worthy play rate of his career. You can just see so locked in mentally. He's seen so much football now at such a high level that nothing phases him, right? And I think it takes the level that it takes to even somewhat phase him is the level that the Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo have, and even then, he was that close. He had a chance at the end of the game to tie or win a ball game. So what goes right for the Bills is essentially anything centered around Josh Allen, and that'll continue to be the case. He is the reason they win ball games.
He's a 96 grade over the last 4 years. That's the best in the NFL. Likely going to win his first MVP this year. We'll see. Actually,
it's 50-50 on that one.
He's right now the betting favorite to win MVP.
Is he really?
Yeah.
That's surprising.
It's him and Lamar, I know, but
there's obviously a case for either. I might even lean towards Allen, but we'll see when the voting comes out. That's going to be a razor thin margin there.
Yeah, that should be coming out. What
this week? Some Wednesday or Thursday?
Is
right?
it Saturday night or they do?
I forget what night the
it might be Saturday
I forget what night
honors.
the honors is. I always forget which night it is.
So we'll find out soon if he won his first MVP or not, or if Lamar Jackson was his 3rd MVP of his career. But he was obviously superhuman for them. 5th best pass blocking grade in the NFL, 8th best pressure rate allowed in the NFL. Only 4 sacks allowed in the entire regular season, 7 fewer than any other team in the league. That's an absurd stat. 4 sacks allowed in 17 games is ridiculous for that offensive line. Obviously, Josh Allen did a great job as well, getting rid of the football, never getting sacked as well. But just an incredible number for that team. 3rd best rushing grade, 9th best pass rushing grade. Greg Rousseau had a great year, 10th among all edge defenders with 63 pressures. But that was kind of the one bright spot they had in that defense was the pass rush. Everything else to own. 7th lowest graded defense in the NFL. 2nd worst coverage grade in the NFL at 37.7 team coverage grade. 7th worst run defense grade. Offensively, Khalil Shakir, the only wide receiver with a 70-plus receiving grade this year. So they got to add more at wide receiver after losing Stephon Diggs, obviously. But the big problem with this team this past season was they had one of the 10 worst defenses in football.
It's just, and it's been the Achilles heel for 5 years now. You mentioned ending the year with a playoff loss 5 years straight. They're not going to win a Super Bowl unless this defense gets better. You look at their last 4 playoff losses; they're giving up 32 points a game. That's where the Carolina Panthers were this year for the season. They just can't. They have not been able to find a way when push comes to shove against Mahomes or on one occasion against Burrow to just make stops. At least so when it's the other side of the ball, and I think the end of this most recent game exemplifies it is, okay, when Allen has a ball, then the Chiefs are up 3. The Chiefs with Spagnuolo and what they have going on defense at least have a chance to get a stop. They gave up 29 points. Allen, I think, should get more credit for scoring 29 points on Spags at Arrowhead in the AFC title game. but the Chiefs at least have a chance to get a big stop. You don't feel like that with the Bills. You just don't. Even the week before against the Ravens, they didn't make a stop. They gave up a touchdown in 2 minutes, and then Andrews dropped the ball at the goal line. They didn't actually make a stop. Or, in this Chiefs game, when the game was tied, remember when Mahomes got the ball back with about, 6 minutes left?
Yeah.
You knew they were scoring to some effect. I mean, and this is the problem I have with the Bills' defense. Look, number one in turnover margin. That's fantastic. That's great. Also, that's in part because Allen and the lack of turnovers this year. But you can't, against Mahomes and Burrow and Lamar and the elite guys, you can't do the bend but don't break thing. And this is what their defense does. They don't have that much talent. Greg Rousseau is their best player, but there's not really any elite talent beyond that. Matt Milano's had injury issues. They weren't able to cover anybody this year. When you talk about second worst coverage grade in the league, it's only ahead of the Raiders, who had the worst one in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you just can't. It's the same as the Commanders, but we give the Commanders a pass because they're a young team and they're ahead of the curve. When you think about the Bills' defense, they're behind it. It's getting worse every year. And, imagine a year next year where they're not, whatever it was, top 5 in takeaways. If they have turnover regression, they're going to look really bad on defense. I mean, you just can't. You're not going to shut them down. You're not going to hold Patrick Mahomes to 10 points. That's not a thing. But you have to be able to make stops when they matter, and they just can't do it. So until they get significantly better on defense, it's going to be hard to think they can get over the top. And Sean McDermott's got to figure out how to fill in these gaps, because this is just what it comes down to every single year. When they need a big stop, whether there's 2 minutes left or there's 13 seconds left, they just don't get it done. So I think any of the slander on Josh Allen about losing playoff games is nonsense.
Yeah.
Their last four playoff losses are giving up 32 points a game. What do you want him to do? I mean, you just can't ask him to be perfect every week, especially on the road. It's not fair.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, they need to fix this defense. And they're 25th in assets this offseason in terms of draft capital, in terms of restructure potential, in terms of effective cap space. They have some notable free agents. Amari Cooper, trading for him. He's a free agent. Rasul Douglas, Matt Collins, DeMar Hamlin, all those guys are free agents as well. In terms of what they got to do this offseason, improve the defense. I mean, add serious talent at D tackle, corner, and linebacker. I think those are the 3 positions I'm really targeting for them in the draft. I think they probably should be taking one of those positions with your first-round pick in the NFL draft as well. And then other than that, got to add more wideouts. Got to add more talent at the receiver room. I like Khalil Shakir a lot. Maybe they bring back Amari Cooper for another year, but they need more in that wide receiver room. Even though Josh Allen's incredible and he always raises the floor for what they have, they need more from that receiver room.
It would help if Keon Coleman stepped up and it had a year 2 kind of breakout. He showed flashes this year, but I think for me, I look at this defense and I go, you have Rousseau, you have Ed Oliver under contract, and you have Christian Benford, and everybody else I start thinking about if I can improve. Every other guy outside of those 3. I'm like, okay, we have to get better. We just can't continue to run out here with a bottom 5 defense in these big moments. Because, I mean, that's, again, the turnovers tilted in their favor, and it's great to force turnovers. But in between them, just not good enough. I mean, you give up 44 points to the Rams. You give up 42 in a win over the Lions. Giving up, 25 against the Ravens isn't terrible. But, again, remember the context of the Ravens handed you that game. So, I mean, there's just too many holes right now, and against coaches and quarterbacks that are at an elite level in the playoffs, this is not a defense built to keep up with them.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below, so if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can come one today.